So I just got out to this service call for no heat on a Trane 80% efficient gas furnace. I'm actually on call and had to come out to this. One of our technicians was just out here a couple days ago and did some repairs. He did a new control board and pressure switch on this system. I'm just kind of going through everything, and my initial fault code was saying open limit, but I tested all the limits were good. So I just recycled power on it, and when it went to start up, I could tell it was energizing everything, and then it was sending 120 volts to the igniter, but nothing was coming on. I did get a hold of the technician that was out here. I usually try not to bug people, but I gave him a call. So when I got a hold of the technician, he had stated that he did the new board, but didn't do the new igniter that came with the board. He just thought that the old igniter was good, so there was no reason to do it. Unfortunately, he was unaware that Trane has converted most of their igniters from 80 volts up to 120 volts. So these new boards typically come with an igniter, and with that igniter, you definitely have to do it. Otherwise, you can run into just blowing up an 80 volt igniter with these new boards. So basically, this new board was sending 120 volts to an 80 volt igniter, and it toasted that igniter. I tested it, ohmed it out. It's definitely bad. And then he had stated that he at least left the new igniter on site that came with the box. He just had left it on top of the furnace, so it's actually right up here. So good news is that he at least was smart enough to leave the igniter out here. So what I'm going to have to do is pull this old igniter out, put the new one in, and that should take care of the issue. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then see if it fires off and everything looks good at that point. And another thing to add, I highly recommend on pretty much all these newer Trane furnaces, when you go into a call, I'd stick your probes in here on your meter to voltage and see what kind of voltage you're getting when it goes to ignite. That's the best indication to really know what you have going to your igniter, if it's 120 volts or if it's 80 volts. So I highly recommend making sure you do that. So I just wanted to show that old 80 volt igniter that was in there. This is basically what happens when you apply 120 volts to an 80 volt igniter. It has this weird pit, almost melted looking deal on it. So I just wanted to show that. Another thing with the new igniter, definitely make sure you're not getting your fingers on the actual ignition rod portion of it. I usually put on rubber gloves when I'm handling these, just to kind of prevent any oils or anything like that from getting on the igniters. I've always been told that getting your oils off your fingers on these things will make them fail prematurely. So that's just a recommendation I always make with these. So I was just going to show, for taking this igniter out, it's pretty much just these two screws and this whole bracket comes out. There's a little tiny screw right here that holds the igniter in onto the bracket. Usually these little plugs that come on these igniters can be converted, but unfortunately the last tech that was out here didn't leave the little cord that came with it to convert the two. So I had to use wire nuts to get this up and operational. I did use some little porcelain wire nuts here. And then another red flag that I kind of had right when I got here is that the homeowner was complaining of a little bit of a gas smell with no heat. So I mean, it kind of instantly made me think possibly the igniter was acting up. So that smell was basically when this was failing to ignite, the gas valve kept opening, thinking the flame rod was hot. It's just like shooting out a little bit of raw gas, and then just over and over and over of it doing that. She must have just came down and checked this at that exact time to smell that. But that's definitely what's going on. I checked everything else for gas leaks and stuff like that up here on the flex, and in this room I didn't see anything that stood out. So I got all the new stuff in here, so now I'm going to apply power to it again. with that being said, I mean, whenever you're doing any work on the inside of these things, as far as changing out parts, I highly recommend shutting it off at a power switch, and if not here at the disconnect. I mean, they do have these little safety door switches, but I mean, you can't rely on that safety to protect you. So definitely make sure you're shutting it off at the main power source. So yeah, I got this in here, and now I'm just gonna apply power, and I'm actually probably just gonna jumper it out down here at here with some jumpers. Once everything looks good, I'll test it one more time from the thermostat just to make sure everything's working good right from the thermostat. This is already a callback situation, so I just want to be as efficient as I can on this, so we're not having to come back for a warranty type call. So I just applied power and put it into a call for heat, and you can instantly see the igniters glowing nice and orange. So I'm gonna wait here for this to fire off. So that definitely was what was going on. So he basically had just put a 80 volt igniter with 120 volts going to it. So he just made a small mistake. It's a learning experience for sure. I'll definitely remind him at the shop on Monday and let him know that whenever those boards come with an igniter, it's usually for a good reason. And then I'm sure most people watching this know how to jumper out heat at the unit, but I basically just have a jumper going for my W1 and my 24 volt R on here. So everything looks good. If anyone wants to add anything, leave it down in the comments. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.